Hello, and welcome back to the dining room, which we have pretty much really established now means cameras. Now, when last we were sitting in here, I was unboxing the ZV-E10, which was going to be my main camera, my A camera, and my B camera was going to be the ZV-1, which in fact I was using to shoot the unboxing of the ZV-E10. And if you watch that video, you know that towards the end, the ZV-1 overheated, even though it was set on high, which was supposed to fix any overheating problems. Well, then I go on YouTube and do a whole lot of searching, and it turns out, ZV-1 does have an overheating problem that was reported in exactly 2 videos that I could find. If you search an overheating, you get 100 videos that say, oh, just set this thing to high and then you'll be fine. Well, I had it set to high. As I told you last week, from selling my Challenger, my Stormtrooper, I got a big pile of cash. And so I said, well, I'm going to go out and really do some research. Now, if you will recall, also in the ZV-E10 video, I had to come up with a way to justify paying a 50% premium over its list price because they don't make them anymore and they're really hard to find. Well, I found one and I paid a 50% premium. Well, not quite, but close. While I was doing that, you may recall, I told you that, well, to get a much better camera than the ZV-E10, you were going to have to get to $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. And I just didn't want to spend that kind of money because I didn't have that kind of money until I sold Stormtrooper. And then all of a sudden, I had that kind of money. In fact, I had way more money than that. The rest of it will go to paying off other debts and everything. But I took a little chunk and I did my research and I discovered, remember, I need a flip out screen. That's ultimately important. I would like interchangeable lenses, which the ZV-1 does not have, but the ZV-E10 that I'm talking to right now does. What would be great was if those interchangeable lenses also fit on the ZV-E10 so that I could have 2 cameras that could use the same lenses. Back to my friend Mark Bennett's Camera Crisis, and he did a comparison of the Sony A7C, which is a full frame sensor, which is the big sensor, which come in the way more expensive cameras. But the body of the A7C is more like the size of the A6000s, which is closer to the size of the ZV-E10. Well, then why didn't I buy an A7C to start with? Because unlike the ZV-E10, which was around $900, and the ZV-1, which was around $800, the A7C is more like $2,000. But it's under $2,000 without a lens, but as soon as you put the kit lens on it, it goes over $2,000. And again, I didn't want to spend that kind of money. But apparently I'm going to have to spend that kind of money. And well, I'll just tell you, I spent that kind of money. Here it is. Here, let me cover my eyes so it can get into focus. This is the A7C. Now we will unbox it. Well, I say we, I mean I. You'll watch. Well, or not. Remember, I always put chapter headers below so you can skip ahead to the parts you want to see. We'll start with we'll unbox this, and I'll talk about each of the things and each of its capabilities and how it compares to the ZV-1 and the ZV-E10. And then I'll show you all the other stuff that came with it. I don't know how many of you bought a lot of cameras, but one of the things with cameras, and then by the way, this goes back when I worked on Wall Street in the 80s. It was like this. 47th Street Photo, B&H Photo, those kind of places, they want a discount. But Sony won't allow, if you discount Sony's, they drop you. You can't be a Sony dealer. So they can't discount. So what do? They throw stuff in. So you will not believe, remember with the ZV-E10, I had that big pile of stuff, extra batteries and all that. You won't believe the pile of stuff I got with this one. And again, basically for about the same price as it cost just with the lens from Sony. They threw in, it's got to be $100 to $200 worth of stuff. I mean, some of it's junk, but some of it's pretty good. Anyway, I'll show you all that too. Let the unboxing begin. Didn't say it'd be easy. Okay, we have our usual Sony, booklet stuff, things. And over on this side, we have the lens, which we will need later. Let me take it out of the bag so you can see it. Yeah. It's hard to show things to both cameras at the same time. Notice there's the lens cap on the front end, and then it has, on the mounting end, it also has a cap, so that again, you need to keep your lenses clean. I think I talked about that in a previous video. We have an A7C strap. Always good to have a strap so that if you see it has the A7C logo on it. USB-A charging plug. The battery, ooh, this is nothing. This uses the same battery as the big boys in Sony's lineup. It's, I forget what it's called. Well, I don't have my glasses on because I'm never going to see this. NP100, anyway. I'll put it next to my head. But the battery in the ZV-1, according to Sony, these are Sony specs, 45 minutes. In the ZV-E10, 80 minutes. In the A7C, this big boy, 140 minutes. So you have 2 hours, and by the way, this is video recording time. They have a whole bunch of, if you're just doing photographs, it'll actually last longer, but for shooting video, Sony says this thing will last 2 hours. Then we have the camera itself, and then under that though is the USB-A to USB-C cable, like the ZV-E10. So basically, I can use the same cables. Let's get the box out of there so we can get. There we go. Here is the A7C. Now you see right away, I already talked about the size. It's very close in size, like within a ½ an inch in all dimensions, and within like 2/10 of an inch in two of those dimensions. So it's a good size. Now the ZV-1 is of course the smallest. It weighs 10 ounces. The E10 with the kit lens weighs a pound, and this guy with the kit lens weighs 1.5 pounds, 23.8 ounces, or 676 grams. That's a lot of grams. So it's a pretty hefty. But by the way, what you get with that heft is metal. It's much better built. It's got metal in the case, and it's weatherproof, so you can go outside and shoot in the rain and in the snow. ZV-E10, you do not want it to get wet, or the ZV-1. You don't want them to get wet. They're not weatherproof. This is a real camera that's really weatherproofed. There is the sensor. I'll show it to that camera. I'll show it to you. Put it in front of my face so you'll focus on it. This is a 35 millimeter full frame sensor that's 35, almost 36 by 24 millimeters. That's a big sensor. Actually, while I have it off, the cap off, let's go ahead and put on the lens. Which you do, by the way, well, most of you are probably better at this than I am, but there's a white dot over here, and there's a white dot on the lens, and you line those up. Well, yeah, there you go. And then you turn until it locks. Did you hear that click? Well, I did. And now it's clicked into place. Wait, I was talking about the sensors. I'll come back and talk about the lens in just a second. So this is a full frame 35 millimeter sensor, 36 by 24 millimeters roughly, 24 megapixels. Now the ZV-E10 has a APS-C sensor, which is much smaller. It's 23.5 by 15.6 millimeters, so it's substantially smaller. But also 24.2 megapixels, by the way. Oh, APS-C is a very popular sensor in Sony's the A6000 line is all APS-C. In fact, that's why you can't get the ZV-E10 anymore, is because when there was a shortage, the chip shortage, well, APS-C sensors are one of the things that's hard to get. So Sony looked at, well, what cameras use the APS-C sensor in our camera line, and which one's the cheapest? Oh, the ZV-E10 is the cheapest. Well, stop making that one. And by the way, I think if you go look at all the APS-C sensors, it's not just the ZV-E10. It's like basically they stopped production lowest price up. So the only APS-C sensor cameras you get from Sony right now are the expensive ones, because they've stopped making them because they're too expensive. They need it. And then of course the ZV-1 has the little tiny 1-inch sensor, 13 by 9 millimeters, and only 20 megapixels. So it is the smallest sensor. By the way, this becomes important now that we're going to talk about lenses. The ZV-1 has the fixed lens that you can't change, and it's f-stop 1.8 to 2.8, and it's the 35 millimeter equivalent, 24 to 70 millimeter. Well, the ZV-E10 is f3.5 to 5.6, much higher numbers, and higher is bad. I'll talk about that in a second. And it's 16 to 50 millimeters, or 35 millimeter equivalent, 24 to 75. This lens, the kit lens for this camera, for the A7C, is f4 to 5.6, so even higher. And it's 28 to 60 millimeters, and 35 millimeter equivalent APS-C, 42 to 90 millimeters. The thing about f-stops is the lower the number, your f-stop, the more light gets into the camera, which means the more light hits the sensor. So you want as much light as possible hitting the sensor. Well, then why would Sony make a lens that starts at like f-stop 4 for this camera? Remember I was just talking about the size of the sensors? The ZV-1 needs low f-stops, big openings to let light in, because it has a little tiny sensor and it needs as much light as possible to hit it. Whereas the ZV-E10 has a much larger sensor, so it can stand to have a substantially less light hitting it. And of course, this camera can stand to have even less light hitting it. Although with the ISO, which, well, I guess I can talk about right now. The ZV-1, it's 100 to 12,800. The ZV-E10 is 100 to 32,000. And this one is 100 to 51,200. Because ISO you can use ISO to offset, but as you get to high numbers like 51,000, it starts getting a little grainy. They make full frame lenses, down at the 1.5, 1.8, these nice numbers. But they're big. They're long. So you can't, the whole idea of this camera is to be tiny, and if you have to put these giant full frame lenses that stick out to here, and by the way, if you go on YouTube, you can watch a whole lot of people with this camera putting giant lenses on it, and they had to make it little so that it would be a compact camera. Now, by the way, as soon as you go to use it, you have to see it. It's like the ZV-1. It extends. That's the lowest. That's 28 millimeters, and it goes up to 60. And then when you're done, you put it away, and basically that essentially turns off the lens. Kind of what happens with the ZV-1, where the lens extends out and then goes back in when it's done. Except this one you have to do by hand, Because again, if they were going to put motors in it, it would make it bigger and heavier, and you know that they're trying to avoid that. Speaking of lenses, the other joy of the lenses is that while this is an FE lens and that's an E mount lens, basically all E mount, FE is still an E mount. So I can put it on the ZV-E10. Now, the ZV-E10 full frame lenses act a little different, and there's again, guess who? Mark Bennett's Camera Crisis has a whole, he has several videos, I think, about how to deal with and how to do the calculations on figuring out what your field of view and everything are going to be when you put full frame on the APS-C. And when you put and by the way, when you put APS-C lenses onto the full frame, like here, you get a crop. I think it's 1.2 or is it 1.5? Oh, another thing about this camera that's different from the ZV-1 and ZV-E10, the reason it costs more money, is they have optical stabilization. This has IBIS, in-body image stabilization. It's 5-axis, and the sensor will move trying to stay stationary. It tries really hard to stay stationary. Okay, I say really hard, but not really hard. Most other cameras with IBIS, their sensors try harder to stay in one space. But, by the way, not to worry, because with all three of these cameras, they all support catalyst browse. They all have gyroscopic information that they record. So you have a little file attached, well, next to all your video clips, which are all the gyroscopic motions. So it can use that to crop in a little and stabilize the picture so that you can get gimbal smooth shots without a gimbal. Oh, and one other thing that I like about this camera, again, staying in the Sony frame, I can trade lenses back and forth. I also have the hot shoe, the same hot shoe on this camera that I have on the ZV-E10. Which means, like right now, I am using a hot shoe, basically wireless microphone. Well, it's not. It's digital. So the signal's being recorded digitally straight into the camera. There's no wires, there's no analog stuff going on. I can use that microphone over here. And I have ordered another microphone, but again, the chip shortage is just killing me. It'll be here like in a month. But I have and I'll do a video about it. But I'll be able to do a video about a lot of microphones. You may have noticed my audio quality has been all over the place lately. It's because I've been trying out different kinds of microphones. And when I finally settle down, I will do a video about microphones. Let's see, we've done the weight, the sensors, the lenses, the shutter speed, the battery life, stabilization, overheating. A bunch of people tried to make this thing overheat. No one ever got it to overheat. People would run it for 8 hours. Oh, because you can plug in the USB-C charging thing while you're using it. Now, it's not running off of the power, but it is recharging the battery. So as the battery is going down, it's being recharged. Now, you can eventually run the battery down, but it takes like 8 hours. So people run it for like 8 hours and have not overheated. So I don't have to worry about overheating on this camera, which makes me very, very happy. That's, I think, most of what I want to say about this camera, but I have quite a little haul of other things to show you that came with it. The main thing, the most important one to me, is the plug-into-the-wall charger, travel charger, and an additional battery. You need an external charger, and so this came with an external charger, and so you can always have one battery charging while you're using the other one, so I don't think it'll quite catch up. I'll probably get another battery and another charger. Oh, I haven't experienced it myself. Well, I just unboxed the camera. You watched. But apparently when I put this battery in, the camera's going to say, that is not a Sony battery, and I have to click OK to continue. So they're like copy protecting their batteries. You can still use them. Some little three-piece digital filter set. By the way, this camera has a weird filter thing because the filters go inside. So they're 40 millimeters, 40.5 millimeter filters. Most cameras, filters are like 70 millimeter. I mean, they go out here. These go, they go inside, little bitty. More lenses. Here is a Vivitar screw-on 40.5 millimeter wide angle and macro. So it's like I had the same thing. I got it for the ZV-1 where you can unscrew. If you unscrew the outside thing, it goes from being a wide angle to big. So you can screw that on to get more angle. And also a 2.2 time telephoto lens. Again, that screws on to the front of the lens. We have a flash that I will never use, so that's just going in the closet. We have, basically, it's a cleaning cloth, some cotton swabs, some lens cleaning fluid, universal screen protectors. Oh, look, there's a little tiny tripod in this little tiny bag. See the little tiny tripod, which can only be, the bag's only this long, so it's a little tiny tripod. Then, by the way, this, which I don't know what this is. It looks like a leather thing with 2 rubber bands on it. I have no idea what it is. Tell me in the comments below. They always throw in, this is a 64 gig SD card. I have lots of those. Oh, this package comes with Corel, with Paint Shop Pro from Corel 2020 and Video Studio SE 2020. Well, since it's 2022, that's not such a great deal, and then it comes with a bag. And I thought, well, this is it, until I opened the bag. And inside the bag is a bag of goodies. A strap for the bag. I don't even know what this is. Some sort of rain hat for your for your camera. I don't know. Well, it's not a bad little camera bag. It's junk. It's cheap. But in here we have more screensavers. So they really like the screen. More liquid camera lens cleaner. There was a little tiny one in there. Oh, look, another little tiny tripod that's curled up on itself. It's an off. It's a knockoff. You know the real brand. That's not this. We got some all-natural camera lens sensor. Oh, sensor cleaner. I think this is to hold SD cards. Yep. Little SD card case. The cheapest one possible. And we overheated. Knew it was coming. Cloth. Oh, a little pen brush. And the ever popular bulb. Which I always thought, like lots of cameras come with these, and I always thought, well, that's kind of silly, until I was watching a video and this guy was showing the it's not so much keeping the dust off the lens, the sensor. If dust gets on your sensor, then all your pictures suck because they all have little dust specks in them. And he showed there were these 2 little tiny dust. You could barely see them. But man, in the video, well, of course, remember it's blowing up. I mean, it's little tiny. The sensor is that big, but when you blow it up to 4K, that is the unboxing of the A7C with its flip-out screen. I think this is the camera. If money had been no object when I started this little adventure, I probably would have gotten this one. I may have also gotten the ZV-E10. I probably would not have gotten the ZV-1, which would have saved me a lot of headache, because that's almost $1,000 that's pretty much useless. I mean, like I said, it already timed out here. Oh, I think my battery's almost dead. Don't know what I'm doing next week. I will have microphone videos coming, and I have other things I bought for camera gear and stuff. So I'll have another gear video for sure, covering microphones and tripods and stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great week. Enjoy your cameras. Go out and shoot some pictures or take some videos. Next video you see will be recorded on this camera right here. And probably the ZV-E10 as the B camera. Okay, well, my little battery thing's saying sign off. So, thanks for coming. See you next time. Bye-bye.